Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Stanley. Their part number BPC150N-00. It is a bypass set of track and hardware. They call it a contractor set. I think that's probably just because it's, just packaged in a box and the stuff's tossed in and, not so retail package oriented, just contractor oriented, which is fine. All the parts are in there. So the BPC150N, and there is a link below this video to the product brochure that will allow us to review all of the sliding material from Stanley, but it will allow you to review or focus in on the 150N series. So an overview of the material is that the BP 150N is a set of two tracks for bypass. You need, to do a bypass, you need to either have one extrusion that will allow you to hang at least two doors in it in altering planes, or two individual tracks. Not every manufacturer makes a single extrusion that is basically these two tracks, and this is the track, by the way. That is basically a single extrusion with or without a fascia. This BPC from Stanley is literally two separate tracks, okay? And this is for door panels up to 150 pounds. So that's going to handle your 3070 solid core type doors. Although, keep in mind, while that's a very generous or a good pound rating to be in based on standard doors, you might have doors that are heavier than that. So be mindful that you might need the BP250N. I'm a fan of overdoing it of this type of hardware because if your job is to install the material as specified, install it correctly, and then you're done, okay, you're done. If it's my house, I don't ever have to want to tear that material out. So I will absolutely look for something that is more robust. The problem with heavier material the problem with material that is rated for a greater weight, the stuff gets bigger. So you might say to yourself, oh yeah, that's noticeably larger. And when you're in that 250 pound range, you're getting into I-beam channel as well, which is really elegant material. So be mindful. There's an advantage to going heavier because it will take more use and abuse is really what the problem is. Heaven forbid you use this in a pocket door scenario and then have a wheel break. That's a major problem. In pocket doors or doors that slide into the wall, I'm always looking to overdo it. I'm laughing because a customer called me one time, did a pocket door installation. And he says, man, there's something wrong with your hardware. Okay. It worked on Friday. I took Monday off. I'm back to the job on Tuesday. The finished carpenters were here. I don't know what's going on, but your door doesn't work. It doesn't come out of the pocket. So that's a mystery, and that's horrible. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this poor fella is going to have to tear the wall out. Well, I go to the job site, and they had put up paneling, and I'm watching the tradesman put the paneling up. And I'm looking at his air-powered nail gun, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, you really got a big nail for what you're doing. It's 1/4-inch material. And then I looked at the wall where they put the pocket on. They shot through the 1/4-inch material, through the drywall, and into the face of the door with about 20 nails. The point of the matter is you never want to tear it out, no matter why you would want to have to tear that out. So 150 weight rating, durable V-groove aluminum track provides smooth, quiet operation. They're referring to that portion right here. That's going to keep the wheels nice and centered, whereas you'll have other sorts of track that will be less V-shaped. You want that wheel to sit right inside of there, and it certainly will. Features large 1-inch wheels, which we'll go over the hangers in a moment. Easy to snap in feature makes hangers a snap. We'll go over that to install. Vertical adjustments can be made. V-groove track spacer allows for easy installation of 1 3/4 bypass or tri-pass. You could literally install bypass by for 2. You could do tri, where you're adding another kit, a single kit behind it, and then you would have 3 planes of doors that would stack. That might be appropriate, and I've personally have done that when I need to span a large width, but when I put all the doors to one side, I still need a good usable size. So if you had a 12-foot wide opening, sure, you could go with two doors that are 3 foot wide each and stack them to either side, leaving you with 3 foot. But if you were to go with a tri situation, smaller doors, you could yield a larger usable space. Laundry room, custom laundry room application where I needed to maximize the clear opening when I was touching, when the equipment was being used. So 12 foot, I forget what the net door size was, but they could have been, 2 foot 5 or 2 foot 7, some odd size. But it was necessary because the equipment that needed to be accessed. Anyway, you see the point. The downside of the pass doors is that when they're closed, you're eating up a lot of depth. You've got 3 thicknesses of doors plus the margin between each, and it might look odd. In that particular custom application, I had applied to the face of the doors a today's standards would call it shiplap or a V-groove style, but this was a rabbited style where the boards were maybe 4 inch tall and there was a 1/2 by 1/2 mortise at one end, so that when you stacked them on top of each other, there was this continuous 1/2 inch mortise going all the way around on the face of the doors, but then on the paneling around the rest of the room. So it was pretty cool. It hit everything really well. When it was time to do laundry, the client was able to open up the doors maximum, get to the stuff, close it all off, and you turned around, the rest of the room was an office, is what the point of that was. Fascia is available as a separate standalone product. I don't see a part number for the fascia. Fascia is a term that's used to basically give you, imagine there's the second track. Well, you're going to have to put something out here. You might just have the exposed track, but that would be unusual. Usually there'd be a piece of trim out here. I've even seen, colonial casing used as a fascia. Or you can come with a piece of aluminum angle that is literally going to look ribbed like this. Will be an L shape. Will mount up here at the top. Which, I don't really understand how they're doing that, because the fascia will sit on top of one track. So you're really going to have to space the other track down a little bit, or you're not going to worry about it and just adjust it in the hanger for the thickness of that fascia, which is probably maybe at the most 50 thousandths thick, something in that range. That's probably what they're doing. They're just adjusting it on the back end for the height for that tiny amount, that tiny fraction. But the point is the fascia will come down and cover the seam between where the hanger is and the top of the door is, inside of here. So it'll cover it nicely. Or, you buy a fascia, or you're going to put woodwork to match everything. In that project that I mentioned earlier, there was no fascia applied because it was custom made. The wall was brought down to reveal or to conceal the track itself. There is a table down below in the manufacturer's product catalog that will show the 4 sizes that you can do. 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot. You're going to have 2 doors that you will have equipped in the package to hang. If you need to do a tri-pass, you're going to need more hardware, that sort of scenario. This same sort of track can be used as pocket, as just sliding. It can be used as surface sliding if you come up with some angle brackets, and I don't know if Stanley has them, but we'll investigate that in a moment. You could use it as double bi-parting pocket doors, whatever you're going to do. You just need track length that's long enough, that's suitable. So be mindful to think that through. It's also going to be the same track that you would use in a heavy-duty bifold. It's just the pivots the hangers will change to pivots, but then the inside is going to still be those same hangers, is what it is. And indeed, if we scroll to the next page, you'll see the hardware components that would make up this material. So that's handy because you want to be able to see the entire kit, but now show me the individual pieces that go inside of it, because you might be building a tri-pass. So if you were to do that, you'd pick up another track and the part number is there. You would pick up your 2 extra hangers. You would pick up your guide that you would certainly need. You might need an additional spacer if that was necessary for what you were doing. An angle stop is certainly very nice to have, and you would certainly need another one of those. An angle stop is literally mounted to the backside of a exterior door, so that when one door is pushed closed, it will end up making contact with the angle stop on the back side, so that you're kind of limiting how far you're going to be able to travel those doors across each other. So you can limit that as well. Finger pulls are also listed there, and flush pulls as well. Finger pulls are literally finger size. And different guides are also there. Be mindful that if you're doing 1 3/4, you're going to be going with the single guides. This bag did not survive. Okay, let's get into looking at what all is in this hardware other than the 2 pieces of track. Then before we get to the hardware, they have a cross-reference. Stanley to Cox to Crowder to Grant to Hager to Sterling to Lawrence. Lawrence is a name from the past. Lawrence Brothers went out of business many years ago, and they were a manufacturer of sliding door hardware in the 19th century. They were making that material. But if you're an old timer and you know the 581 or the 580 track from Lawrence Brothers, it will allow you to understand, oh, okay, that's like the old Lawrence Brothers material. Sterling, I don't think you're going to get that anymore. Hager, you'll certainly get. Grant, probably. Crowder and Cox, I'm not familiar with. Now, what I would like for them to do is tell you what is the bill of materials of the hardware package. And by the way, the fascia is also listed there. So the rest of the catalog is handy because it will allow you to review all things sliding and folding from Stanley, a name that is incredibly trusted. Speaking of manufacturing in the 19th century, that would certainly be Stanley as well, although sliding door hardware is relatively new for them. What you're going to get, and as I'm scrolling through the Stanley catalog, what you're going to certainly get from them is the garden variety material. If you're looking for 50-pound, 60-pound aluminum steel track kits, aluminum heavier material, they're going to have those bases covered. Do not look for them for any of the fancier stuff that we see nowadays. They have pocket door frames as well that will give you the wood members to create the wall around. But don't look for them to give you any of the I-beam stuff, any of the glass sort of material. I do not even see a way to surface mount this track inside of here. So because that's kind of the craze nowadays, to surface mount doors onto bathrooms, onto bedrooms. Yeah, I don't see any L angles. So what I'm referring to is, this is obviously what we would call header mounted. Okay, it's got to mount to the underside of your header. If you're going to face mount this, you're going to need an angle. You know, you'd have to come up with your own. You could probably do, you could certainly source angle. That track is about 1 7/8 overall width. If you were able to come up with some 1.5 by 1.5, you could drill it, cap it on top, surface mount it. Obviously not for bypass, but be mindful of that. Sometimes you also get into a problem of simply not having long enough track. 8 foot apparently is the longest that they get into in all of their lines, which relegates you to a certain size door. 4 foot, maybe 2 foot, depending on how you're using it, I suppose. Well, pardon me, I meant to say 3 foot, not Well, it could be 4 foot if it's a single door that slides into a pocket. If you had a pair of biparting pocket, it would be a pair of small doors. 8 divided by 4 nominally is what you're going to be dealing with. They're obviously 2-foot doors. So keep in mind, there's no 12-foot track is what I'm driving at, or longer. Other manufacturers get into the stuff. But the thing with Stanley is that name is so trusted and trustworthy, in fact, that they're going to cover those regular bases. Now, there's also a link below this video to the installation instructions, and it is certainly going to be, it is a one-page document, and in fact, it's about a 1/3 of a page, or half of a page document, because it's written in multiple languages, so that takes up a lot of room. The important thing that you have to first get into is, okay, how tall are my doors supposed to be? That's the first thing. And you can see there in the upper right-hand corner that the door height is to be 2 5/8 less than the finished opening. That literally means that if your opening is 80-inch, you're going to be at 77 3/8 net door height. So be sure to order that stuff. The problem is customers will call and say, yeah, I got an 80-inch opening, I got an 81-inch opening. I cut these doors down with my circular saw. It's going to just be particle board underneath. Yeah, it's going to be. So be mindful of making sure that you have the proper rough opening. If you're dealing with stock doors, maybe they're full 80-inch tall, you're going to be at 82 5/8, which is pretty typical to be in that sort of scenario. You're building sliding door material. People are not dealing with custom sizes. Something's going to be standardized. And generally, the rough opening is going to be built around what's the door size, what hardware am I using, okay? I would want to investigate that to make sure my header height was compatible or at least agreed to and understood. So that's the first thing that's really important. What am I going to cut the doors down to? This will handle 1 3/4 or 1 3/8 doors. They do indicate what the outside dimension is to be for an 1 3/4 space, 3 5/16. Now they do have these spacers that are here. Now let's take a look at what those spacers do. That spacer, there are 2 of them included, and they look like this. Well, when you pop it out, you take it out of the bag and you put it together, it's going to look like this. And that's going to permit you to get the right spacing that's necessary. Okay? And at that point, after you get everything, you space them together, get it up into the opening, screw it in, then I don't see there would be any reason why you wouldn't just pull that out. That's your spacer. It's certainly really nice to have because they do have to be spaced together. I know that people have called me in the past and said, hey, these doors hit each other. Well, how thick are the doors? Okay. They're either using the wrong hangers with the wrong offset, or they space the tracks too far apart, or in that case, too close together. So it's nice. Stanley obviously has had problems with that in the past, and it is indicated there in step 2 what they're looking like or looking for you to provide in terms of those track spacers. So insert the 2 hangers. Insert 2 hangers per track. Clip the tracks together using the spacers, 1 at each end and 1 in the middle for 6 foot and longer. Position track into the opening. Pre-drill 3 30-second pilot holes. Step 1, by the way. Fasten with screws provided. Secure all screws in track and remove plastic spacers. The bottom line is the hangers have to go in first. Because why? Well, it's a cased opening frame. You're not going to get to the end of the track after the tracks are in, and there's no way to get them in without that. So hangers always go in first. Put them in the track, slide them in. Don't let them fall out, that sort of thing. If you're dealing with a snubber or a stop in the track like the old Lawrence brothers had snubbers that would slide into the track, you'd screw it down, and that's what would keep the... And let's go through everything in here. We've talked about the 2 spacers. I'm going to lay everything out here on my desk. That's obviously got to come down from the track. This is called a pendant bolt. If you use your imagination, a necklace, a pendant, that's what that's called. There's obviously going to be 4 hangers. There will then be 4 top track or mounting brackets. There'll be 4 of those as well. Then you're going to get a whole mess of screws. You're going to get a box wrench. You're going to need that to be able to get to the top of the door and make your final adjustments. Okay. Boy, they really only allow you to go one way with that. That's got a nylon lock in it. So what it does is it causes you to have to really exert pressure on it. The reason there's a nylon lock there is they don't want it moving over time. You're going to get a whole mess of screws. Okay. Obviously, lay all of them out and figure out what screws go where. Based on the quantity of longer screws, those are going to be for the hangers. The shorter screws will be for the track and your accessory material. That's what I do. I just lay them all out. If there's not a bill of materials in the instructions, and there indeed is not. So you'll lay all that out. So the hangers go in, track spacers go in, track goes up. For easy access of hangers, same as step 1, except cut 1 1/8 less than finished opening to install track to header, so that you provide 1 1/8 clearance. What they're talking about is if you want to be able to get these hangers in, leave yourself 1 1/8 short. Don't cut the fascia short. Here's why you might want that, and Stanley did a good job with saying that, even though they don't say why you might want to do it. This hanger breaks in 10 years, you can get it out. That's the point of that. Okay, you'll be able to pull that hanger out of there. Hopefully Stanley still makes them, so you can get them. So that would be a way to be able to compensate the problem. If it's a pocket, you're going to obviously have a big problem with that. Leaving it short on the opening side may not be a problem for you. I don't think anyone's going to notice it. I might notice it just because I'm a door person, but that might be a good way to go about being able to salvage a situation. The issue, of course, with that is, you're not going to have a lot of room to position the door, and I don't really see how that's going to help you ultimately to get the back hanger out. Anyway. That's step 2, which is optional. Step 3, position hanger plates so edge of hanger plate is a minimum of 5/8 from the edge of the door. This has got to be not closer than 5/8. This has got to be far enough away so that the positioning of the hanger, once it is installed, and you knew when they said snap, they meant it was going to be easy. We'll go over that in a moment. That's the 5/8 they're talking about. So the hanger doesn't bury into something prematurely. Okay. Nice. Makes it easy to connect everything there. So still being in step 3, apply the plates to the top of the door itself, 5/8 at least an inch away. With the 1-inch screws. They do indicate, yeah, they list the screws here. They're going to use the shorter 1-inch screws for applying the hangers. They've got some much longer screws here. Let's see if they tell us in the track section what length those are. No, I don't see the length of the screws indicated. The longer screws, about an inch and a half is what they're going to call those. So be mindful the shorter screws go to the top of the hanger, or go to the hanger to the top of the door. Install floor guides. Install floor guide in the center of the opening, plumb with center of the track, choosing hole combinations to set spaces for your 1 3/8 or 1 3/4 doors. This particular gizmo, they don't show in the installation instructions. So what you're going to do here is these two pieces basically just slide against each other so that you can create what you need for the thickness. And that guide's nice because you're going to be able to handle, if it's super nice, you're going to be able to handle 1 3/8, 3/4, 1 3/8, and 1 3/4. Yeah, you can't do 3/4 inch with this, unfortunately. The hangers would probably be too large for 3/4 anyway. So 1 3/8 or 1 3/4. and you're going to run those screws down to the bottom based on, you know, whatever you need, because those holes will line up. There you go. That thickness is obviously commiserate with the margin between the two tracks when you've used the spacers. It's going to go right in the center, is the bottom line. Oh, we've not talked about how wide to cut the doors. Well, there's a little bit of play that you have there in that sense, and I don't know if they define it for us at all. They don't. If you're going to have a 4-foot wide opening in this track, let's measure and see what it actually comes to. So it actually measures 48 inch. You're not going to want two 2-foot doors. Okay? If you have two 2-foot doors, they're going to come together, but they won't overlap. You've got to have some overlap. So generally what is done, in my experience, is that track should be 47 inch. Because then you can you'll use stock doors at that point, or you're going to get doors that are 24.5 or 25 inch. Usually a 1 inch overlap is what's called for, and you do need overlap. So be mindful that, you know, a 48 inch track does not equal two 24 inch doors. Something needs to be smaller, track, or the doors need to be bigger, or something needs to be bigger, the doors. You don't want to be able to see into the closet from an odd angle, is what I'm trying to say. Step 4 is to put the guide in. Step 5, to install door to hanger, lift the door in the upward position, snapping the post into the hanger plate, and push the locking tab to the locked position. Both upper and lower tab will line up when the locking tab is locked. Okay, so what they're saying is both upper and lower tab, the upper and the lower tab will line when it's locked. Right now it's obviously not locked. That would be the locked position. Okay. Okay, so before we get to adjusting, literally when it's unlocked, it snaps together. You have to push on it, but it goes right in. To get it open, then when you're done, you put it in the locked position. Now it's not going to come out. If you want to remove it, put it to the unlocked position, as it is now. Then you have to pull that gray tab, you know, take some hand strength all the way back, and then it will then, because it's spring loaded, it will then release the pendant bolt. You can see how that opens up. And what's interesting is the wheels on a safe lock kind of operate, to change the combination, operate on a similar principle. Okay, turn the post to adjust vertically for height and plumb using the wrench provided. And that is the wrench that they have here. So I had said earlier you're going to turn it in one direction. Well, you will until you turn the wrench over, and then be able to turn it in the opposite direction. Okay, so that box wrench is there. You'll sort it out pretty quick how that's going to work. I don't know what this smaller end is for. It's probably a universal tool that goes with other kits. Turn the post to adjust vertically or to adjust for plumb using the wrench provided. Do not unscrew post from hanger. Don't take that. No reason to remove the pendant bolt they're calling a post. To remove door, activate both tabs in the direction of the white arrow with a straight blade screwdriver as shown. Yeah, you can do it by your fingers, I suppose, but having a tool to help you do it would be preferable. You're certainly going to want to have someone assist you so the door just doesn't come down that small amount, which it will. Be mindful that these tracks are rated for 150 pounds, so you might have a lot of door moving on you. And at that point, we're done. Step 5 illustrates how all that works together. But it's a very simple situation to make this material work. Probably the most notable item. A lot of people call up and say, hey, my wheels are 1 inch diameter. Tell me what I need. Lots of them are 1 inch. 1 inch diameter, center to center. Looks like it's about 1 3/16. Right in that range, okay? Probably the most notable thing about this is that it's made by Stanley. It carries the Stanley name. A name, again, that's super trusted. I would not have any reservation about using this material. It seems to be made of good quality. I like the innovations that they've put into this. It is a smarter kit. Snapping into place is nice. Track spacers included are nice. So I can definitely see why Stanley is going to get and continue to get loyalty from their clients when it comes to their sliding material. Installation instructions are included. It's the same document that's listed to here down below. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Stanley products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog of lots of Stanley products. Their core material. Stanley is a hinge company, or was, and in my opinion, they make the finest grade commercial architectural hinge available on the market. But then they get into all this other material like sliding door hardware. But now the Stanley name is wrapped up with many other companies. Best, Kaba. Stanley has a comprehensive offering of commercial hardware, obviously hinges, door closers, lock sets, exit devices. So we get into a lot of stuff now. If you have any questions on the Stanley, this is their BPC150N kit, and this is just a 4-foot kit for purposes of the video, or any other Stanley product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.